This week's episode of the Autoblog Podcast is brought to you by the Autoblog Daily Digest. It's a great way to stay updated with what's happening in the world of cars in just 2 or 3 minutes every day. Ask your smart speaker for the Autoblog Daily Digest to stay up to speed with the latest car news, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the Autoblog Podcast. I'm Greg Migliore. Joining me today on the phones is our senior editor for all things green, Beltz Snyder. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I couldn't be better, to be honest. I'm loving this weather. I'm loving this time of the year. I'm loving driving sports cars again. It's great. Yeah,
I'm in a good mood, too. It's quite warm out. Just was running around in the sprinklers, actually, having some fun. So we've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about our two long-termers because we've both driven both of them. So this is going to be fun. The Acura TLX and the Hyundai Palisade. You have the TLX right now, right, John?
I do.
Yeah.
I just got it last week, and
nice.
I've been enjoying it. Yeah.
Cool. And I have the Palisade, which was actually part of that, I guess, trade. A couple dominoes were tipped over as we, rotated through the fleet. And I'm loving it. I am really impressed. We'll get into that because I think we have a lot to talk about there. It's a tremendous value, I would say. I spent a little bit of time in a Kia Rio. It's the first time I've driven the Kia Rio in quite some time. We'll just riff on that real quick. For the news, the Maverick name is back. It's going to be fully revealed on June 8th. We're going to riff on what we think about the Maverick name. We'd love to hear what you think. Good time to mention, send us your Spend My Monies or any questions you have. We like to talk about whatever's going on in the mailbag and stuff like that. That's podcast@autoblog.com. And finally, we will spend your money. So TLX, Palisade, should we flip a coin? We can talk about it both a little bit. But I guess why don't you tell me, what are you doing with the TLX?
So far, not a whole lot. Just doing... family driving duties, taking my son to karate, which I'm actually joining today.
Nice.
So that'll be fun. And this week it's not getting quite as much use because there's a Miata in the driveway as well. So that's a lot of fun. But
super jealous on the Miata front.
But the TLX is great. Ours is all-wheel drive, and we had all that rain this week, and it's a great car. Plenty of grip, good handling. I'm really into that Turbo 4 that's in there. It's been a long time since I've been excited about a 2-liter engine, but this one is really good. And it sounds in the TLX, it sounds fantastic. It's got these nice harmonics. And that you hear the blow off from the turbo when you let off the gas. It's a pretty exciting car to drive. But yeah, it looks fantastic. The tech works pretty well, and all around it's just a real sweetheart of a car. I'm really enjoying it. This is something for someone like me who drove a Subaru WRX for over a decade. This is like the car my boy racer self would grow up and get to sort of replace that. But I'm not in the market for a personal vehicle at the moment for myself anyway. So.
Does a lot of things well. We just have a Type S, which is the higher powered version, review up from one of our contributors, Basim Wazif. So check that out. It's a nice review. I believe he got to drive it at, I want to say either Willow or Laguna Seca. But either way, he got to drive it a lot faster than I have driven just the regular TLX. But a little bit of it, it's interesting because some people say, hey, the Type S is really the car for me. It's got more power. It's just a little bit more of a sharper edge, if you will. I actually have been in the camp that this Turbo 4 with, I want to say 273 horsepower, like 280 pound-feet of torque, I got that right. Awesome. Is the right thing for this car. It's not super heavy. It's just under 4,000 pounds. 10-speed automatic, I think, is quite good. It has paddle shifters. So, I mean, Acura has, in my mind, never been about crazy power. So this car feels like it's the right balance. You know, could they go up to like an even 300 or 290? Sure. Horsepower. Yeah, okay. I wouldn't say no to that. But didn't feel underpowered to me, you know, and it's the chassis is really good. So I feel like you could kind of wring out what you want, which you can't always do in a car this big.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like an appropriate amount of power for the car. Definitely not underpowered like at all. I'm curious to try the Type S with the turbo V6. 355 horsepower seems like a lot for this car. It does. In my mind, it doesn't need it, but I bet it's a blast. I can't imagine it being boring at all.
It's really quite just a striking car, the Type S, with those kind of tucked under wheels, those enormous Brembo brakes. Like it almost sharpens up just the regular TLX's look in a very almost like, it reminds me a little bit of like a SEMA kind of car or something, you know, like the hood is kind of like really like toned up. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot more power though. And it's, you know, 53 grand. So, you know, ours is an A spec, which, you know, drops at about, you know, 6 grand. You know, ours looks like as tested is, we're 47. So if you're willing to pay 5, 6, 7 grand for, you know, 80 plus more horsepower, if that's what it's worth it to you, like, okay, I might do that. I like, for me, I could go either way. It would sort of depend on what kind of car I wanted. You know, do I really want that kind of like muscle sedan? Then I would go with the Type S. But I mean, the flip side of it is you start to add stuff to the Type S and it gets to be like 60 grand real quick. Yeah. You know, whereas 48, our car is very nicely equipped.
Yeah. One thing I wish it did have, it would be the perfect, you know, formula would be a manual transmission. Yep. Because I think back to the, you know, Acura TL, the super handling all-wheel drive, and yeah, that transmission that's shared with, you know, Honda vehicles too, is just such a great shifter, just a wonderful experience rowing through the gears. I feel like the 10-speed auto in our TLX is I don't know. That's maybe the one thing I would change about this car. It's just a lot of gears to get through. I feel like, you know, having fewer gears would make for, you know, sort of a smoother, more sporty experience, and force you to do more to sort of get to know the engine and its limits and sort of wring out the power that's available. I think it would just be a little more engaging with fewer gears, and especially if it had a manual. But other than that, you know, that's really my only nag about the car. That and the touch interface for the.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, it's a little a little tough. You know, the little mouse trackpad sort of deal.
Yeah.
With the little a separate section on the right side that's just a scroller, little slider sort of thing. It's not the easiest to use, but
too much going on. It's tough to do while you're driving, I think.
Yeah.
You know, Zach Palmer explained it to me, a road test editor, and the way he explains it is textbook for how to use it. Like, he gets it. I think Joel Stocksdale, our news editor, also gets it, and I think he even kind of likes it. For me, I mean, the other thing too is I got the car in early January. It was freezing out, so I'm already wearing like gloves and like a parka. You want to get in the car and get moving. You know, just a lot of the stuff you have to do using infotainment was very inconvenient. So it wasn't my favorite part. You know, it's interesting because so your average like premium car buyer, I'm curious if you like, just thinking out loud here, if during your test drive you would like even get enough of a sense of it to like either be persuaded either way or not to buy the car. And what I'm saying is like most test drives, the dealer is probably like, oh, it's the infotainment. Yeah, it's a little tricky, but it's really cool. And if you love the car, it's the car you want. Your half-hour test drive, you're like, okay, whatever. Maybe you take it home, depending on what your dealer experience is like. But, maybe you take the guy at his word, then buy the car, and you're like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? So, I don't know.
I feel like it's something that I will get used to with when I use it more. Just like some of the Lexus interfaces that are really tough to use at first.
Yeah.
You eventually do get used to them. You get a little bit of that muscle memory, and you start to put together. Oh, putting my finger on this part of the pad, uses the cursor, highlights this part of the screen. It's not just a direct analog from like a trackpad on your laptop keyboard. It's a little bit different, but once you start figuring it out, it could be a lot more livable. But time will tell. I've got a couple more weeks with this guy, and that's what I'm going to try. And that's one thing I'm going to try and figure out is that something that I will learn to live with or even appreciate about this car.
I think it's a cool car too, in the sense that it isn't like ostentatious, but it's not like, but it stands out a little bit. Like if you get a few of the options and you roll up to somewhere where you want to be seen and, convey some sort of an image, it's a cool look. The big grille, the big wheels. Ours is a beautiful shade of blue. I can't think of the name.
I love that blue. Yeah, I don't know what it's called either, but I absolutely love it. It's very deep, and there's like just a hint, maybe just a whiff of purple in there. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good looking car. Like I said, when I had it in the winter, Apex Blue Pearl paint. It's a $500 option. I remember writing that, so I had to look it up. And it's on. Is it still on winter tires? Did you guys swap it yet? It is June.
Yeah. I'm gonna take it in and swap that out.
Yeah.
Probably this week or next.
Yeah. I had some fun with it on the all seasons in January and early February. But then literally I sent the car. I think it went to Zach first, then it went to you, and maybe Byron got a month in there too.
Joel had it for a while.
I'm sure we had a huge snowfall, and then somebody swapped it with me, and it literally hasn't snowed since. So since we got those winters put on it, but that's fine. I mean, so it goes. Then we have the winters though, for when, late August, it starts snowing again here, and away we go. But yeah, I am excited for this car to kind of wing back my way. I think it's, I definitely enjoy spending another month in it, like the way we're kind of working it here with every editor getting a month, I think has worked out pretty good in our long-termers. And
I hope this car does well. Because it's the kind of car that I would like to see automakers try more of. It's a little different than your regular sort of luxury look, it's fun, and like you said, it's not brash or in your face, but it definitely looks the part. It definitely has like a lot of sporty touches to the exterior, and it's not really understated. It's just stated perfectly enough, and then you get inside, and it's just a hoot to drive. Again, that motor, I don't know, like how a 2-liter turbo is that good or sounds that good, but I just really like it.
It to me, this is sort of what Acura should try to be. This right here, just a nice, styled up, balanced car. The chassis is like the calling card. The design is the calling card. plenty of power. Some people might want more. If you do, it's there for you. It's expensive and feels premium, but it's not insane. I would actually go as far to say it feels like a pretty good value, actually.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it holds up. I know there's actually a pretty interesting piece I think Zach just put up on the seats. It sounds like he had some issues with them, so that's good. A little more long-term coverage, if you will. No, Joel put that up. And that's, go ahead.
I haven't spent long enough periods of straight driving in it to notice any ill effects or discomfort from the seats. But I'm sure I'll get one of my up north trips in it and see how it fares on my aging bones. But so far so good for me anyway.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that too if I were to take it like to the UP or something, what the state of my back would be, or if I'd have psoriatic arthritis or something by the return home. So we'll wait and see on that one. Let's talk about the Hyundai Palisade though. I currently have it, and you had it. You've probably driven it more than I have, but it's impressive.
A couple thousand miles on it. That's a great car. I want to know. I want to hear what you think of it.
Yeah, no, it's first of all, I think it's impressive looking. Like people like walk by and look at it and they're like, wow, what is that? That looks great. That's a Palisade. Who makes that? So that's always kind of a fun conversation.
I have noticed that. So it is a little polarizing. Though. Okay. There are some people that just think it's super ugly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
See, I could see that with the Telluride, the Kia, but I don't. Yeah. This one's to me pretty conventional, actually. Like conventional,
it
good.
Is.
But
I think it looks good. I like its proportions and some of the design touches. Ours is the calligraphy, which has some a few changes like the lighting and some accents here and there. Those wheels, I don't know. Those wheels are a little much, but
I like the wheels.
They're unique.
I dig them. That's cool. What?
Well, I got to tell you, we liked the car so much that we're buying one. That's going to be my wife's next daily driver. Just got the call from the dealership today that it has arrived.
Nice.
So yeah, and ours is like almost exactly the same as the long termer.
Okay.
It's that same color.
Nice.
It's a calligraphy all-wheel drive. So I'm looking forward to putting more and more miles on it. It's just it worked so well for us and for our needs. Our basically like extreme use case. 2 kids, both the dogs, a week's worth of luggage, driving halfway across the country and back. And it was a delight. It was a great sort of home base for any day tripping we did. Tons of places to plug in. So, Wally can have his, tablet charging. Kat can have her computer plugged in, although it'll be her driving it. So now it'll be me with my computer plugged in.
There you go.
But yeah, it's got 2, 110 volt inverters. One on the back of the center console, and then one in the cargo area. It's super convenient. The safety features, the highway driving assist with the lane keeping and blind spot monitoring with the camera feeds and I just feel really good about my wife taking the kids around in this car, because I know she's gonna be in good hands, and she's gonna be a lot less frustrated when she's trying to
Yeah.
Pack it full of stuff for our trips up north. We won't have to take 2 cars up north anymore, which is
That's
just
a relief.
fantastic.
It's yeah, there's some room in there, in that, especially the second row, I think is very, very spacious. To me, it's like a lot of sort of these 3-row SUVs where the third row is a little bit tighter. And then when the third row is up, you don't really have that much room. But if you're going to really move stuff, you put the seats down and, hope for the best.
Yeah, it's great. We could fit, I have long legs. Most of my height is in my legs, so I have to sit pretty far back from the dash and telescope the wheel as far out as it'll go. But even so, I was able to have my daughter in a rear-facing car seat behind me without having to move my seat forward at all. It was just, there was a gap between my seat and hers, and that's really rare to find in any vehicle, unless you're looking at like a Suburban or something. So I was really or a minivan. So I was really pleased with that. It's like a minivan without being a minivan.
That is a really good way to put it. And it's what I would say too is it's like almost like a cool minivan without being a minivan. Like a Traverse is a minivan, but it's hard to say that's really all that cool. Whereas this has some attitude, some design, chops, and it stands out. You light up, you hit the key fob at night, like walking out to the parking lot, and those, I think their LEDs light up, and you're like, oh, hey, there's my car. It's cool. Yeah,
it's got a locking center diff, which is great because in the winter, we again up north. We spend a lot of time up there. I drive out on these, basically what they're like logging trails, and they're not really maintained. And I go out and target shoot, and it's just I've gotten kind of stuck before in Cat's GLK. So, but now I'll have got more ground clearance and a snow mode and a locking differential. And hopefully that won't happen anymore.
I've been driving eco mode a lot just because it's got about 35 miles of range. I need to fill it up, and I need to fill up my lawnmower. So a trip to the fuel station is tonight, tomorrow. It's got to happen soon. But yeah, I mean, I actually did notice a little bit of a difference among the different drive modes. You could kick it up into more like the sports setting. There's like, I think a comfort or something, or an individual. But yeah, it's nice if you want to try different things. And I too, when I go up north, hopefully this fall, will be ready to do that snow mode too, I think, because we'll have this thing for another 9 months. Yeah,
man. It'll be fun. We have to get these two together and get pictures of them side by side and be like, the two Autoblog long-termers.
So what really hit me as far as something just I immediately fell in love with is the interior. I think that is just stunning with the kind of vertical or horizontal, like kind of graining. It's a very light interior. I'm curious how well it's going to hold up. I mean, cynically, I'm a little worried about that. You might remember our long-term Pacifica was fine after a year, but it was a little battered, and that was a very kind of light, creamy interior. I remember a few years ago, we had a long-term Murano, and the seats sort of would grab the indigo out of your blue jeans, and the seats turned blue.
That in cars before,
I think that was a Nissan thing more than anything else. But long story short, it's kind of a light interior that might take some hits. I mean, currently it's got oh geez, what's back there? Like my kid's shoes, some golden retriever hair, just masks, stuff what you need to carry these days. So we've already really laid the lumber on this thing. And that's what you're supposed to do. You don't buy a 3-row SUV to take it to Pebble,
Right.
So yeah, big fan of the interior.
The calligraphy trim has that microfiber headliner, which is really nice. That quilted leather, which is, automatically makes it look, 20 grand more expensive than it is. And yeah, that sort of, it's plastic, but it's like almost like a grained birch. It looks like a birch to me. Yeah. Almost.
If this were a Volvo, I would have no problem saying, "Oh, look at this amazing repurposed Scandinavian rescued wood," and not think twice about it. So yeah, it is plastic, but it reminds me almost like, I don't know how to put this, almost like a poor person's Lincoln. You know what I mean? Like Lincoln interiors are gorgeous right now, especially in like the Navigator and the Aviator. But I think Genesis is really going for it with their like use of materials. They do a good job of making, frankly, cheaper materials look more expensive. That's no harm in that, Yeah. Their insides remind me a little bit of like what Genesis is doing with their exteriors, where their exteriors look like Bentleys, if you ask me, for some of their SUVs. And then, the other side of that is I think I sort of see that really upscale vibe in, the Palisade, in a number of Hyundais too, frankly. But yeah, I can't wait to put some more miles on it. We put a fair amount of miles on it just this weekend, doing like, we went to a flower store by our place, got some plants, got 5 bags of dirt at Home Depot, got some patio sand so I can blast out the weeds with my pressure washer, and then put the sand in between so the weeds will hopefully not return. That sort of thing. Picked up tons of food. All the things you do in late May to spring things, if you will. And that's kind of what the Palisade is for. So
I'm excited for, I just got to say, I'm excited for the year 2024 because Hyundai is going to be coming out with an electric large SUV. So maybe that'll be our next car after this Palisade. So one thing I wish we had was like a hybrid or a plug-in of some sort with this, but there's something coming in a couple of years. So I'm looking forward to that too. If they can execute that as well as they've executed this, I'll be a happy man.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting when you mentioned that, because that almost like we have like our current family hauler is a GMC Acadia, and we're already kind of looking to replace it, and we're thinking, well, do we want to do like a plug-in Pacifica? That sounds pretty good. But then it's like, if you wait like 3 years, you go all electric in the same sort of size. So it's really interesting, this kind of inflection point we're at, as far as just like EVs are really permeating just across the industry in all segments and price points. If you had told me 4 years ago, hey, this Pacifica Hybrid's going to be pretty affordable, it's not going to be this like $70,000 luxury item that you can only buy in Silicon Valley, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. And yeah, they're going to build it in Windsor. It's right here, no problems. So it'll be interesting to see how things evolve and change. And that's on the short list of vehicles too, maybe for 2024.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about some news?
Sounds good.
The news of the week, if you're listening to this, maybe over the weekend, maybe you're grilling, maybe you're opening a beer on the patio somewhere, mowing your grass, walking the dog. June 8th, come back to Autoblog. That is when the Ford Maverick is going to be fully revealed. But today, June 3rd, they did officially confirm, perhaps the worst kept secret in all of the car world, that the Maverick is coming back. That's going to be the name. And oh, by the way, tune in for the said reveal. So check out our coverage. It's up on the site. Do you like the name Maverick, John?
I do. Yeah. I really do. In fact, I like it when Ford reuses old names in general. They do a really good job at that. And like anything with Mach in it is good. Yeah. Mach 1, Mach E. I think Maverick, I like barely remembered that the Maverick existed until we started, speculating about the next truck being the Maverick. And I had to, go back and do a little research. But yeah, I think it's a great name for anything, really, for a fighter pilot.
Top Gun, I believe it's delayed, but it's coming back. Is it November now? Is that when they're finally going to have it? Top Gun 2?
I don't know, but I will be watching it. The first one is just such a fantastic movie. If completely unrealistic, I just love it.
Tom Cruise at his best in that era, and Val Kilmer, that movie. And I actually liked A Few Good Men with, everybody was in that movie. It was,
I haven't seen that.
Tom Cruise.
Forever.
Yeah, like everybody. Kevin Bacon, Jack Nicholson, like everybody. It's ridiculous. I digress. Maverick, Iceman, all that stuff. I like the name. I wrote a column. I actually delayed my column a day. Just check out Wednesday, by the way. That's our opinion pieces run in the mornings about 10 or 11 o'clock. Mine ran on Thursday just because I thought, hey, this is a good idea to write about. So I think it's a good name. I think if you remember the original Ford Maverick from the 70s, I actually liked that car. My family had a Maverick. So that was one of the reasons it kind of resonated with me, pretty deeply, just in like, hey, I remember what it was. But I think it's a really good use of the name. It's like, you wouldn't associate it with like a compact car from the 70s. It sounds like a truck. So I think it's a good move. Maverick, Ranger, and then of course F-150.
Now, you just gotta wait for them to use Pinto on something.
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. Wonder when that'll come back. Probably right after the Granada, right?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to. I love the trend in smaller and smaller trucks. Just offer smaller trucks like the Hyundai Santa Cruz. I'm really stoked about. That'll be a fun one. But yeah, Maverick should be good too.
They hold the trademarks.
And they brought back, the Lightning was a fantastic name and a really, really good execution on the new electric F-150. Perfect name for that car.
I'm going to provoke you here because I'm pretty sure we've discussed this before, but I think the Blazer is a good example of reusing a good old name, but reusing it differently. Now, I'm pretty sure you had like a K5 or something.
No, it was it was 1994.
Oh, okay, got it. So
Ford, it was the S10.
S10, okay.
Yeah.
Good generation. But this new one is not at all like an old Blazer. And then the Trailblazer is even less like the old Trailblazer, if possible.
Yeah. I was real salty about the Blazer at first, but after driving it a little bit, it's actually pretty good to drive.
Yeah.
It's for its size, it handles well. It feels really planted. The steering is surprisingly good. So yeah, I'm not as anti new Blazer as I was before.
I like it. I think it looks really good.
It is a good name. It's a great name.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And I mean, for me, it's like they use the best. They're like, hey, what's the best name we could use for an SUV? We got to pull something off the shelf. How about Blazer? We'll put it on this thing. It's not what the old Blazer was, but we need a good name for what we think is going to be an important vehicle for us. Put your hands together, make a sandwich. Let's play the hands we're dealt and try and, win around. So I respect them for that. But I actually think the Blazer is really growing on me. I don't know if it's just because in Michigan, like the Blazer is literally 1 out of every 7 cars. Midsize cars or SUVs are popular, and so it goes. But anyways, so that's our new segment. Kind of brief, but I'm excited to see what happens on June 8th. So come back for that.
Yeah.
All right. Should we spend some money?
Yeah.
All right. This is a very nuanced one here. Let's see. All right, so I've been debating this one for a while now and thought you guys might have some good suggestions. My wife and I had a baby in February. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Exactly. So they're in the market for something that can hold all of the traveling junk that comes along with a tiny human and a dog. Welcome to my world, man.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
All right, so here's the choices. Well, actually, here's more of the backstory. I have two cars that have been fantastic for what he needs. First, the '08 Tacoma. Sounds great. Towing the boat, Home Depot trips, was there last weekend. And in anything involving more than one passenger. Secondly, he's got a 2010 BMW 135i with a manual. Awesome. He commutes in both. Yeah. I would commute in both too. I could easily see some mornings where I want to just drink coffee and drive the taco. But the downside to that is the rear-facing car seats don't fit great in the taco, and I imagine they really don't fit well in the 135i, if it even has a back seat. Off the top of my head, I don't even know. Does it? You think, John?
Yes.
It does, probably. I would have guessed yes. I digress. So here are the options. Sell both cars and buy a sporty family SUV. Owning a new one is better than two old ones, right? Top contender, a loaded X5. I'll say right off the bat, if you do that, that's a safe play. You're not going to go wrong. Keep the 135i for fun drives and get a less sporty SUV with plenty of space. So that would mean keep the 135i and get a Yukon Denali. He argues, and I don't disagree with this, that V8s are on the way out. It's now or never. Probably. Option 3, keep the taco for towing and buy a sporty wagon. A6 Allroad, E63S, and RS6 Avant are too spendy. Sorry, I ran that all together. He asked about the A6 Allroad, but the Mercedes and the RS6 Avant are too expensive. So the budget is $75,000 if he keeps the 1 Series, $90,000 if he sells both. Looking forward to our thoughts. All right.
Okay.
It's quite the email.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah.
I should I just say what I think?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
All right. I think go with option 2.
Okay.
Keep the 1 Series because that's fun, and that will continue to be fun, especially with the manual transmission. And replace the taco. I would say, if your heart is set on a V8, fine. But I think maybe don't dwell in the past. Embrace the future.
Okay.
And try a Volvo XC90 plug-in hybrid.
Okay. All right.
It's still, I mean, it's a pretty sporty SUV, and it drives great, tons of space. I don't think you could go wrong there, and within the price range too. So that's what I would say. But I just would hate to. The 135i, I feel like getting rid of that would be a source of regret later. Yeah, I've regretted selling certain cars, and I feel like if that was a car that I had, I would miss it. So I think you should keep the 1 Series, and if you want to get the Yukon, do the Yukon, but. I think the plug-in hybrid XC90 is, it's comfortable. It's fast. It's really interesting. That powertrain is not boring at all. And it doesn't hurt to save some money at the gas pump when you're using electricity for some of your driving.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I drove the S90 Recharge a couple weeks back. So similar setup, just different sort of silhouette. Very impressed with it. Frankly, I was very impressed again with just Volvo and who they are and what they do. It had been a while since I had been in an interior that was good like that. I am a little torn here because I really like this generation of 1 Series. It speaks back to, frankly, right when I got into automotive journalism, because that generation stretches back a little bit. So that's kind of cool. I like the taco a lot too, but I'm more of a 4Runner guy. So frankly, it makes it a little easier for me to say, you can let go of the Taco. I mean, I think just the way he lays out this scenario, I think the Taco is probably the thing, you're throwing over the side of the boat here. And that kind of leads me to option number 2, which is keep the 135i. At this point, it's probably as cheap as it's going to be. Maybe it even goes up in value. I don't know. I mean, I can see people getting back into these. And then I will go a little bit different than you here and say, yeah, if you want to buy a large body-on-frame SUV, I love them. America loves them. Go for it. Feel free. I have been in the Suburban a couple times in the last 6 months. It's awesome. I was in the diesel Suburban, which, if you're looking for something to tow the boat, hey, consider that. I believe you can get the diesel across like in a variety of GM SUVs. So like, if you don't quite need the Suburban, I'm sure there's a Yukon, or even the Tahoe is much roomier than it was previously. Take a look at one of those, and just decide how big you want to go. And go from there. Like I would say, honestly, I would highly recommend any of those large, like truck-based General Motors SUVs, as far as just like it sounds like you're not looking to go real like Lincoln Navigator. It looks like you're looking more like bringing up Yukon Denali. It sounds like you want something that's like, maybe you are looking to go Lincoln Navigator. I don't know. But my recommendation would be, hey, Yukon Denali is fine. I also particularly enjoyed the Suburban and the Tahoe though as well. I think, you get a lot of stuff on those vehicles, obviously with the same platforms. So, you're just paying sometimes a couple grand less depending on the trim and what you get. And I would check out the diesel engine. It's an interesting option. It's a torquey experience. Those SUVs have a little more interior room. They redesigned the back, like the suspension is different. So like the way that trickles down is like the whole rear cargo area is better laid out. And I know I've said this before, but it bears repeating. In the old Tahoe and the old Suburban, they were enormous, like battleship vehicles. But you actually couldn't put as much stuff in the back of them as you would think. That's not a problem anymore in the new ones. Like it's really a good usable space. I put my dog in the back at one point, and she was a 60-pound golden retriever. She may be 70 now that as the pandemic lockdown, nears its end, but she's eaten a little bit of human food during this time. But she's a big dog, and she had room to like saunter around when we were like unloading the vehicle. That's a long story, long-winded way of saying, check out like a Tahoe or a Suburban too. And the Yukon Denali is awesome. I think it's got a pretty cool vibe as well. So, yeah. And it sounds like we're both in agreement. Keep the 135i, have fun with that. Yeah. No real reason to get rid of it. If you're going to, spend that much money on a large SUV, you might as well keep something fun too. So, cool. Any final thoughts there, John?
No. I think we hit it.
Yeah, it's hot out. Was playing in the sprinklers a little bit earlier. My dog smells kind of wet still. She hasn't dried off.
That's always fun.
Yeah, but that's okay. But yeah, so that's all the time we have this week. Send us your questions, your spend my monies, anything else, your opinions. That's podcast@autoblog.com. John, have a great weekend. Everybody else, be safe out there. You could be safe out there too, John. And we will see you next week.